In this video, I'm going to be answering the question, which is what does a mortgage advisor do daily in their first year? This specific question actually was asked by somebody in a CMAP study group on Facebook, and they wanted to know what is the actual ins and outs and the practices of doing a mortgage role and how that will differ from, say, being in CMAP and doing your CMAP exams, and what does it entail? And so what we're going to break down, I've got my notes in front of me here. I've very much broke it all down here so that we can go through it all. So if I'm looking down, that's why. We're going to go through the transitioning from CMAP to real world practice. We're going to talk about the daily activities of a mortgage broker. We're going to talk about the sales environment and how that works and the dynamics between that. We're also going to talk about any of the challenges that you're going to face. And so the idea of this video is that you're going to have a bit of a overall understanding of what you're going to be stepping into as a mortgage broker. Now, before we go any further, if you're new here, please do subscribe to my channel. My name is Ash Borland. I am a mortgage business coach. I help mortgage brokers scale their businesses and simplify success. And this specific channel is here to teach everything from people going into the industry all the way through to scaling up to 6 and 7 figures as a solo mortgage broker, if that's the thing you want to do. So I'm really excited to have you here and watch this video. So if that is you, do smash that subscribe button. And if you've got any questions you'd like answering on this channel, drop them in the comments. Always happy to answer them too. So without further ado, let's dive into the very first question, or the very first part of it, which is we have transitioning from CMAP exams to real world practice. So as a broker or as a trainee broker, the first thing you're gonna be doing is your CMAP exams, of course, or your CII exams, because I don't have CMAP, I have CII, which is part of it's a different version of doing it, which allows you to then get your financial diploma if you want to. And with that, once you do those exams, you're then going to transition, like I said, into the real world. You'll get your job, and when you get your job, what you'll realize is a lot of the stuff you were taught in the exams or you studied in the exams don't really apply at all in the mortgage world. The mortgage world is so fast paced that the actual stuff in the book, which is, if you think about the stuff in the book, it's yearly. So every year they redo the book. And I've seen books that very rare, they actually update the books that much. Then there's not much of a difference. Whereas in the real world for mortgage brokering, very different. And so when you first go in that first year, you'll realize, and that first moving into that employed or self-employed role, and I'm just doing this as, let's say this is an employed role for this example, but it'll be the same for self-employed. But for this example, we'll do employed for the whole thing, really. The first thing that's going to be very hard is realizing that actually everything is very fast paced. So all of a sudden, a lot of the information you may have been taught might not actually apply, or in real world scenario, it doesn't really fit. This is a great example of this. Is a friend of mine who is a plumber said that there's nothing worse than when the plumbers, the trainee plumbers that come in to work with him, he said they've won all these awards, and then they're going to fit a toilet, and they can fit a toilet in a square room on a flat wall. But the moment that they come into real world scenarios where the walls are not straight or there's stuff in the way, they don't really know what to do. And it's exactly the same with mortgages. When you do that first real world practice, you're going to realize that everybody is very different, and that there are cases and things that have changed that maybe 2 weeks ago they were okay and now they're very different. And so it is a hockey stick learning curve. It's actually mad how much you have to learn in such a short amount of time. So if you're wanting to do this as a career, just wanted to give you that heads up. That's what's going to be like. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very uphill, but it's fine. And as I said, I know with myself, when I did it, I remember, luckily I had been an estate agent before I was a mortgage broker. If I hadn't had the estate agency kind of background to cling to, it would have been very difficult. I used all my estate agency knowledge as a crutch, really, to be like, okay, I know what I'm doing in this part of it. I just need to be able to wing it through until I'm good enough in my actual job as a mortgage broker. So that transition is going to be very different. Which leads me on to the daily activities of a mortgage broker or mortgage advisor. So what are the activities that you're going to be doing as a mortgage advisor or as a mortgage broker in that kind of first year, and really ongoing, but definitely that first year stuff you're going to have to focus on doing a lot. So I've wrote a few down here. So the first thing you're going to have is you're going to have a lot of client interactions. So client interactions is literally going to make up a big bulk of your day. Not all of it, because there's other things in play, but it's going to make a big bulk of your day. So you're going to have meetings with existing clients, with new clients. You're going to have interactions with people who, let's say, potentially don't align with your values or align with how you think, or that you're going to be talking to them about potentially quite personal things, money, finance, personal life decisions. These are all things that you're going to have to be very aware of and start to get comfortable with. And that's actually something that people don't talk about a lot in this job is that actually, if you're not good at talking about those things, and a lot of people aren't, you can feel really like self-conscious straight away. Many people start this job thinking it's a not get rich quick scheme, but the land to greener pastures, and this is the best thing ever. And many people quit, and the reason they quit is because it's actually a lot harder than it looks. It's a lot of as I've said, focusing on being really like very personal with people and really straight to the point. It's quite a tough thing, and that's going to take a big bulk of your time. And these people are going to potentially be in high stress. They're going to be highly emotionally charged if they're finding a house they want but they can't get, or they're being declined mortgages. You're going to have to learn how to deal with that and learn how to deal with rejections and things like that through that day. Another thing you can look at as well is another part of your day is going to be research and preparation. So research and preparation, you're going to spend a lot of time researching mortgage deals, a lot of time preparing for appointments, a lot of time really, as I said, getting yourself ready for the client coming in or the case you're packaging together. So you need to make sure that you're constantly on the front end of what is happening. The mortgage industry changes so much, and so a lot of time will be spent researching that. And if that's something you're not massively a fan of, this continuous learning and also struggle in this job. And again, that sounds quite negative, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It just is the truth, is that if that's something you love to do, I love to prepare for stuff. It's one of my favorite things to do, hence the notes, but I love all of that. And so for me, being able to prepare and get everything ready, I think it's wicked. So that was one of my favorite parts of the job, actually, client interactions and the researching part of it and the prep part. Oh, I love that so much. So there is a lot of that going to be spent. The other thing you're going to be doing, there's two more things that we want to focus on in this in regards to your daily activities. Next one is going to be networking. So it's different if you're going to be if you're employed or you're employed in like an estate agency role, less of the networking to a degree. But if you're in an independent financial planning firm or you're self-employed on your own completely, you will have to network a lot. You're going to have to go out there and speak to people and find people and get to know them. And that can take a lot of your time up. Some people I work with, they're doing podcasts and they're interviewing people that way. Some people go to BNI meetings. Some people go to property meetings. But you want to network and build relationships with BDMs, with lenders, with estate agents locally to you. Or if you are employed in estate agents, you're going to be networking actually with a lot of your team. And so you will actually be brought out to meetings a lot of the time, especially if you're in like Connells and stuff. They'll take you to meetings. You'll be with your team members. You'll be with the estate agency teams. A lot of time is spent on this. They talk about it a lot in the Connell space, where it's like people are like, oh, meetings for meeting's sake. What they're trying to really build is this camaraderie of everybody supporting each other. And that requires people to network. And that's a networking skill that is hard to do. So you will have to attend a lot of meetings or attend some form of networking thing if this is your job, because at the end of the day, your job relies on people passing you business, and they're only going to pass you business if they, one, know what you do, and two, like you. And so if you can't cut those two squared off, you're screwed. And it brings me to my final one, which is probably the one that many moan about with the mortgage industry. And it's always the biggest hurdle for many people, including myself at the time, was admin. So administrative tasks. You're going to do lots of paperwork, lots of compliance, lots of follow-ups, lots of checks. That is part of the job. Until you are sufficient enough to be able to actually, if you're self-employed, to be able to bring someone in to provide admin support for you, then you're going to do it yourself. And it's a lot of it. And it's because it's a regulated environment, you will have to do a lot of paperwork. A lot. When you're first starting out, to put a mortgage case together, it's going to take anywhere 2 to 3 hours, not including time you spent talking to the client. When you do it for a long period of time, multiple years, you'll get that down significantly. But in this first year, probably mortgage cases are going to take you 4, 5, 6, upwards to 10 hours, depending on how complex they are. So admin, and most of that is going to be admin. So if you're not very good at that, just be prepared. I know with me, what I used to do, I used to put music on. I used to listen to classical music, weirdly. I quite like classical music, and I'd listen to classical music and I would do the admin. Found listening to music quite hard because the words and I'd mess up. So I'd listen to something that was so alien to what I normally would listen to. But in that one environment, it was just an anchor to make me work harder, and it worked really well, actually. So that is the day-to-day tasks. Those are the kind of 4 things you're going to need to be doing and be good at doing. So now let's talk about the sales environment dynamics, because this is something that if you're not from a sales role, that's going to be pretty big. Now, if you are from a sales role originally, you'll do really well in this. Sales, if you are good at sales, you will thrive in mortgages, because the vast majority of mortgage brokers suck at sales. The reason is because sales is where you're going to be good at selling insurance, because most mortgages are pretty easy to sell. They're not like, you still have some sales skill to be able to sell yourself as a mortgage broker, but the real skill comes in trying to persuade people to take insurance. And by that, by the way, when you take people to take insurance, they are protecting themselves, which is the right thing to do. So it's a win-win for everybody. However, it's hard to persuade someone to take something that's going to cover them for sickness and illness and death when they don't want to think about those things. So it's a hard skill to have. But if you ever check out my video on how much the average case size, and I'll link that at the end of here, the average case size of a mortgage case, if you look at that one, you will see how significant the income is in insurance. It's massive. You earn a lot more money in insurance than in the average proc and the average broker fee, which I break down in detail in that video. If your wealth as a broker will be made on whether you are good at selling or not. So if you're not good at selling, you're going to have to get good at it really quick. So that is something you really do need to be aware of. And it's going to be something that you'll be very clear within that first year, whether you can do that or not, or not whether you can do it, whether you want to do it. Everyone can do it. It's whether you want to do it. Lots of people, again, like I've said, have quit over the years and gone, it's not for me, it's too salesy. It's very hard. You've got to be able to close deals with fees, so be able to sell your role as a broker with fees, and you've got to be able to close a deal with insurance of a high enough premium that you're going to make a decent amount of money, and that the client is going to get the right amount of cover, because crap £10 a month premiums is not going to cover them for anything really they could have just gone from compare the market. So good cover is £50 to £100 a month, and that at least, and that is where the real sales skills come in. So it's very hard to do that. Now, that if I think about my own, some of the strategies you can do as new advisors, one of the things I would definitely really focus on is, I've got tons of content about sales, so you can check that out on here. But a book I would read, which is really good, there's a couple of books that I would recommend. It's Win Without Pitching Manifesto by Blair Enns, and I would actually recommend Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort, which is The Wolf of Wall Street. Super unethical guy, but the book and the system he talks about is absolutely amazing. So I'd highly recommend you look at that book and that sales situation, and that to teach you how to do sales. But it is something you've got to do. And if you need to get training in sales, that's literally what I do as a job. That is my sales. I'm a sales and marketing coach. Then do that. But remember that it's going to cost you quite a bit of money to get the right training, because sales skills are worth a lot of money. And so if you're starting out in the first year, you probably don't have the budget to be able to do that. So it can consume people's free content. I'm a really good person for that. Matt Chapman is really good for that. It's another name to look at. And Gary Waters is another really good name. Gary Waters and Matt both do protection, so insurance sales. I do mortgage protection and everything else. Both of those are clients of mine, by the way. They're wicked guys. They don't have any YouTube channels or anything, but you can find them on Instagram and other places. The Protection Coach and the Protection Academy, wicked places to look. Love those guys to pieces, and they've been a client of mine for many years. Check them out, because they will help you level up your sales game, and it's pretty cool. So that's the sales bit. Now, the other bit I want to talk about is the challenges and how you can overcome them. So other challenges to consider. Probably one of the biggest challenges I think you're going to face, two main ones. First one is the learning curve, and second one is the time for work. It's the work-life balance of it. When you first start as a broker, especially if you're in an employed role, even self-employed, but definitely employed, because they're going to throw you into the deep end, you're going to have to work a lot of hours, because you're going to be learning. As I said, it's going to take you a long time to get the case done. Until you can learn to condense that down, it's going to take you a while. And that is why it's very important that you learn how to you learn how to sell, you learn how to condense it and get good at it, but also that you're aware that's going to happen, and that this could be a big challenge. So how do you overcome it? Well, speak to your partner, speak to your spouse, speak to whoever is involved in that, and make them aware that this is what you are doing for a long-term win. But it is something that you need to all be aware of that. It's not just a work-life balance job. You have to really put in the work at the beginning to then reap the rewards in the end. But you're not going to just jump straight in and all of a sudden make those high income levels that you see mortgage brokers make. It doesn't work that way. The other thing, like I said, as well as the learning curve, start learning as today. Start jumping on content like mine, like the people I've named. Those are the people who are going to teach you how to become a better broker, because it's not in the books. The books you read is not going to take you there. It's about skills from learning from other advisors who have done the job and done well, and also from people outside externally, people like myself and others. There's lots of people out there who can learn this stuff. The more you learn, the quicker you learn, the better you will be. And the quicker you get and the better you'll be, the faster you'll get that work-life balance that you want. Now, I hope that answers your question. If you've got any more questions, put them in the comments here, and check out this video on screen, which is my breakdown of the average mortgage case size. So it's how much money you averagely make, and the splits and the commission splits that you roughly get depending on employed or self-employed. Click on it and I'll see you over there.